Welcome to Sephardic U Presents. I'm Nathaniel Poole.
And I'm Sam Bendayan.
Shavua Tov. This week we're diving into Parashat Tzav, the second portion in Leviticus or Vayikra, which continues the discussion of Korbanot, the offerings, the sacrifices, and zooms in on the Kohanim and their sacred role.
That's right. If last week introduced the what of sacrifices, this week focuses on the how, and especially the attitude and intention behind the service.
And maybe most famously, this parasha includes one of the Torah's most powerful phrases. A continual fire shall burn upon the altar, it shall not go out.
And it's not just about sacrifices. It's about the spiritual discipline, daily devotion, and showing up even when no one is watching. So let's start with that eternal fire. Esh tamid tukad al hamizbeach, lo tichbeh. The Kohen would wake up early every single morning to clear the ashes from yesterday's offerings.
It's easy to overlook that, but that quiet, humble work, removing the ashes, is foundational. It teaches us that even in spiritual life, we need to clear yesterday's residue to make space for today's offerings.
And let's be real, maintaining a fire is hard work. It's not flashy, but it symbolizes something deep, the need to keep our inner fire burning no matter what.
Exactly. Judaism, as we know, isn't about those once a year big moments. It's about showing up daily with intention, whether it's tefillah, Torah, acts of kindness, or us getting together every Sunday too.
Yeah, and if you look at life in general, it's the same way, right? The best changes are the gradual ones that you kind of do every day, not the New Year's resolutions that are over 2 weeks later. So
yeah.
With that,
let's open it up to some discussion here. And just prior to the recording, Sammy had mentioned about the bloods being splattered, the blood taken, dashed on the ears, the right ear, the right thumb, the right big toe, and the remainder splashed around the altar to purify it. And, it's always been, I agree with what Sammy had said earlier, is that it's a little odd point that you purify with blood. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. What are the thoughts on this?
I have a thought.
Yeah, Abby.
I heard you or Sam say the fire within us. Can you just repeat that thought? The fire within us has to be lit eternally?
yeah, the ner tamid, right? The fire has to be kept burning within us, our fire, our motivation.
There you go. That's what I was thinking about. So blood, when you think of blood, you probably think of gore. Am I wrong? Or
I think that's the initial interpretation or feeling or vision that we have.
It's our instinct, our physical instinct to be revolted at the sight of blood, right? Which is normal.
Right. That's what makes horror movies so great to watch. Now, the thing about blood is really truly, what is it? What is it about blood that is so important?
It's life.
It brings life. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so that's what I learned. I learned that it is the fire that motivates and the blood that keeps us alive, and therefore it is so essential and so important. The blood on the doorposts on Pesach, the blood on the altar, the blood for the sprinkling during Yom Kippur, all of that is not disgusting and gory and horrible. It's actually the opposite.
It's a sign of life.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. There's another take, which is throughout the Torah, when especially like I can think of when it mentions capital punishment, it actually says that the blood purifies the land, right? And so it's when there is an injustice that the land has to be purified by blood. So it seems that the blood comes along with guilt and it cancels it out. And so when we're doing these offerings, a lot of these offerings have to do with guilt, right? Maybe you made a vow and you didn't go through with it, or maybe you committed a sin or a crime or whatever it might be, and you come in with an offering, and then the blood of the offering is there to show us, I believe, that this is what we're bringing to the world when we do something bad. We're bringing death, we're bringing blood, and so it causes a revulsion within us for our own acts. And then we start to ask, why do we have to do this? And then the answer is, well, because you do all these things and you bring bad things to the world. And so this is what's canceling it out.
Well, there's a counterbalance to that, which is something beautiful in how the Torah elevates routine acts into holy service. And you could say that Tzav might read like a how-to manual for the priests, because if you look at the mincha offering, the flour offering, it's humble. There's no fancy meat, no incense. It's just flour, oil, and sincerity. Yet it's described with intense holiness.
In Mesopotamian culture, it was believed that there was a god who lived underground who was holding in a balance, in a scale, the blood. And if there was a soul that was killed, that balance was broken, and therefore it had to be re-established. That is why it was a very deep-held belief.
This is the same time frame?
Yes. That is why the Torah, knowing that it was something ingrained in every culture, could not do away with it. Therefore, they changed it, they sanitized it. And it had to be brought before the God of Israel in one temple to one God on one altar.
Wow.
It was to keep that culture that was ingrained. They could not be erased right away.
Right. Well, I mean, but
Great
it is,
thought.
right. If you notice, though, there is something real about, let's say a murder is committed, that causes all kinds of negative feelings. The family has to grieve. The person's now gone. The family feels angry. They might want revenge.
Right.
So it causes all this bad feelings to come out. And now that has to be somehow canceled out. And as we've seen this, or at least I've seen it in recent decades, where many crimes go unpunished.
Right.
And then people just get more and more and more frustrated, and it just piles on top of you. Whereas if you were to take somebody and, execute as immediate a judgment as possible, obviously accurately, but, with a seriousness of this has to be immediate, not drag on for decades or, 20, 30 years of appeals. Once that's done, the family can actually, the person is still missing, but at least the other part of it has been, there's a relief there to say, okay, well, you know what? Anyone who does this is going to get this severe punishment. And then that just helps to define everything for everybody. People stop getting ideas about, maybe I want to kill this person because, I'm going to make some money. Maybe I don't like this person. I don't want to see them anymore. And it takes all these crazy ideas out because you realize immediately if I do that, then I'm done. I'm finished.
Well, that's a great
That is
point,
why,
Sam.
I'm sorry. That is why you had the blood redeemer. It was part of that culture in order to bring closure to the family of the victim.
Yeah, for the manslaughter who flees to the city.
Right.
Right. And then the avenger was allowed to pursue and kill him on the way.
That's right.
Right.
It's a civilization of swift justice, swift punishment, but just judgment.
Right.
Right. I mean, right. Obviously, he couldn't. If the Avenger of Blood kills someone else, then he's a murderer.
Yeah.
Right?
So
right.
I'd like to pose a question. I notice in this parashat, a number of times it's mentioned that the slaughter needs to be done in front of God, at the altar in front of God. Why do you think that is?
In order not to have all this, just like Hamas, this blood letting, it had to be sanctified. It had to be regulated.
You don't think it has anything to do with God wanting to bear witness or judge, or not judge, but to see the sacrifice? Maybe it was to make sure it was done well without suffering.
It was to elevate it. It was, I believe, every action.
It does say that.
I'm sorry?
It does mention that a number of times, that exact word, to elevate.
Exactly. It was not going to be wanton bloodletting, the endless circle of violence. It had to be brought to an end, and that is why there was such a ritual. And it was scary in a way to have this blood, to be present, to see this blood this animal being slaughtered. It brought in us a revulsion. The ultimate goal of the Torah was to win us from the sacrifices. That is why we had the blood redeemer, and even he can only kill if the man is outside of the city of refuge. Otherwise, he becomes a murderer himself.
Right.
Nice.
And the interesting point you brought up, Nathaniel, is if we make something physically visible in front of God, like where we're physically standing in front of God, is this so that God can see? So so God does not need proximity in order to see something, right? So something like this, where we're physically positioning something, it's for the humans. It's not for Hashem. It's for us to recognize He's in front of us, and then we modify our behavior because of this, and then we elevate ourselves. So it's for us, really, I would say, not for Hashem.
Sure. It is accountability.
Good.
We are going to be accountable to God.
Right.
Again, that was the purpose
the answer.
of monotheism. I'm sorry.
I like the answer, and all the pomp and circumstance that goes on in this. You have the clothing, the cleanliness, the spiritual prep. On a quick side note, I love the part where the Kohen has to change into different garments before removing the ashes.
Right.
Right. And this is the clothes matter to a certain extent, right? I mean, it's, everything matters. Everything has its place. And so the clothing, as we know, when we clean up, when we dress up for, let's think of Shabbat, or even actually Pesach, which is coming up now, we're supposed to dress up in full, kind of like formal, like we're about to leave.
Right.
That's with a staff in your hand and the shoes on your feet as if you're about to leave. So dressing sets the stage. It's actually the same thing we just said. The physical part of it is important to us because it changes our mindset when we're about to do something.
So it is a mindset.
And whenever the Kohen killed the animal, he had to be dressed in the 8 priestly articles of vestment. He could not be forgetting the Hoshan or anything. He had to be dressed formally to kill the animal. It was again showing the sacredness of the blood. It was not just wanton killing. He would be dressed.
Before you do anything sacred, you prepare, both physically and spiritually. Like Shabbat, I still remember my Moroccan grandfather. Every Shabbat, no matter what, he wore a full suit and tie. Took the shower, got prepared, cologne. I mean, it was an outing. And it just showed such a high level of respect for the Sabbath, for Shabbat. So I guess this is the same idea.
Right.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, and it's the all the physical parts of our rituals and our history, even the Beit HaMikdash, right? it serves the same purpose. It's not for Hashem, it's for us, right? When we see the Beit HaMikdash, we see something and it helps us to connect. And this is why God said when he said to build a temple, he said, "Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham." He said, build me a sanctuary that I may dwell not in it, but among them, among the people. Because Hashem cannot dwell in stones and in wood. It doesn't recognize Hashem. Only humans can recognize Hashem. So it helps us to connect and bring Hashem into our lives. So it's not like an idolatrous thing where it's something physical that has some kind of mystical power or anything like that. It's helping us to connect. That's the power that it has.
So the holiness isn't just in the result, it's in the approach, the preparation, the kavod, the honor we bring.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And again, we have Pesach coming up. And what are we? We're probably all cleaning our houses right now.
Yeah.
And this is part of the preparation, and it's what makes it special.
Right.
So we see that for something to be special, we have to put effort, we have to put work into it, we have to give something. And the giving of something, the effort or the pain is what makes it special. And even if you talk to people nowadays, especially people that went through hardship, even though it was difficult, they always look back on those days as something really meaningful and special. Whereas the times of prosperity, you forget about them very quickly once they go away, because it doesn't put that same mark on your soul as the times of hardship.
Well, it says Torah ve'avodah, and lechem, and Torah and lechem. Unless you have worked, the Torah is levatala, is in vain. There is avodah. The service of the Kohanim was called avodah. He was really working. There was no idleness. And so are we enjoyed. We have to work 6 days in order to earn Shabbat.
Right. And this is, something interesting and something I think we have in common with the Protestants, with the Protestant work ethic, is that why is it that we need to work, right? Why isn't life easy? And the reality is that there's something within us that has to be tamed. And this is the purpose of work. And so the Protestants used to say, that if you're idle, then, an idle mind is the devil's playground, right? And so it's the work that actually allows you to elevate and sort of purify yourself of these evil things within you. So it's very important to recognize that we have this within us. And it's people that don't recognize this that start to go sour, that start to go south, but to get their egos and their egos start to inflate. And a lot of people think that, oh, I'm more righteous than you are, I'm holier than thou. Next thing you know, there's persecution. And all of this can be avoided if you realize, if I want to persecute evil, you can start with the evil you have inside of you. And because that's the only one you can really, really control. Yeah. So.
Well, it's like what we started with, talking about keeping the fire going on the altar. Work keeps the fire burning for us.
That is true.
Very interesting. It takes work, right? It's like work is built into the whole program.
Oh, look, even the wood. It's not, it was cut down trees. Then the wood was split, then put on the altar. All that is work. The ash, the change of clothes, the ash is taken away.
The wood of the altar. There was one day of the year during which the population will go and cut down the trees and bring the wood, and the wood could not be wormy, it could not be moldy, it could not be green. All of this, there was a preparation even to bring and the wood that was going to be burned.
Wow!
Everything had to be pure.
Imagine the size of that wood pile.
Yeah. And again, it underscores the importance of humble work, right? The small things, the things that we consider small, but when we, quote unquote, when we lower ourselves to do these things, is when we really start to progress, right? It's when we make progress. And nowadays we see everyone wants to become a millionaire. Everyone wants to, win the lottery and, live a life of ostentatious wealth and drive nice cars and have big houses and everything. But really, it's the opposite. If you notice, many people who have that, who are given, such luck, many of them, that's the worst thing that ever happened to them, right? They'll become crazy. They become addicted to spending money, and then they blow it all. And 5 years later, they're exactly where they started, except now they have bad habits and God knows what else. So it's really, as Pirkei Avot says, a man who can conquer himself is better than one who can conquer a whole city.
Oh.
Because really, this is our task here. We have control over ourselves. We're not given control over others. And so any attempt to do something like that is going in the wrong direction.
Well, the meal offering, the mincha, which is the meal offering of the poor, is called Kodesh Kodashim. It is a most holy. And the man who brings it, they don't say he's a poor man. Nefesh, the soul, because he has to take that weight, he has to bring it to the mill, or he has to grind it to be very fine. The Mishnah said it had to be put through a sieve 13 times to be really fine. And this is when he brings it, or he brings the olive oil, he has brought his soul. It has been at the sweat of his brow, on his tears that he has brought this. That is why they call the drop of olive dim'ah. It is a tear. It is a tear of sweat, or a tear literally, because he has worked. And the beauty is that he's not ani, he's not the poor man. It is nefesh, a soul that brings the mincha offering. And it was the Kohen who himself did the komitzah, where he took that a handful of this flour. He elevated it, because any Kohen could do the sacrifices. It was the high priest who did the mincha.
That's awesome. Powerful stuff, whether it's morning tefillah, lighting candles, or showing up for family. These are modern offerings, and never underestimate the quiet acts of devotion. That's what this Parashat Tzav is all about. And I guess what we take away from this is keep the flame alive, and small acts matter. And then probably the final one would be approach life with kavod.
Right.
So it's that time again. So thanks for joining us on Sephardic U Presents. Normally, Sam or I invite you back for next week, but next week will be Passover. So take time to reflect, celebrate, and relive Yitzat Mitzrayim, the leaving of Israel and slavery with intention and joy. And we'll be back the following week. So until then, Shavua Tov, Chag Kasher V'Sameach from all of us at Sephardic U.
Shavua Tov, Chag Sameach.